Picture the wild, untamed lands of late 19th century Canada, dense forests, snow-covered mountains, and a cold wind carrying whispers of secrets the world was not yet ready to hear. In 1882, in the quiet halls of a wealthy estate, a fragile child was born, a boy destined to become one of the most complex and feared figures in mutant history. His birth name, James Howlett. James was different from the start, frail in body, yet strangely perceptive, able to notice things others could not. The rustle of leaves, the scent of damp earth, the rhythm of someone's breathing, nothing escaped him. It was as if nature itself had marked him for something greater and far more dangerous. But destiny rarely shows mercy. James's childhood shattered in a single night of blood and betrayal. Thomas Logan, a coarse and violent laborer, shot and killed the man James believed to be his father. The truth hit like a blade. Thomas was not only the killer, he was James's real father. And in that moment of grief, shock, and rage, the dormant mutant power inside James exploded. With an animalistic scream, 3 bone claws tore through the skin of his hands, slick with blood. Instinct took over, and James struck back, killing Thomas in a frenzy of raw, primal fury. It was the night his innocence died, replaced by the first glimpse of the creature he would one day become. Terrified by what he'd done and hunted by his own guilt, James fled into the wilderness with Rose, a girl who would become his closest friend and protector. To keep his identity hidden, she gave him a new name, Logan, a harder name, a name for survival. In the harsh Canadian frontier, Logan grew into his new self. He hunted, fought, and endured brutal winters. His senses sharpened beyond human limits, his strength grew, and his body began to heal from injuries with unnatural speed. But along with these gifts came something darker, an uncontrollable berserker rage that erupted whenever he was pushed too far. Over the years, Logan noticed something even stranger. He wasn't aging like other men. Years turned to decades, yet his body remained strong and unyielding. Friends grew old and died, but he stayed the same. Wars came and went, and somehow, he was always in them. From the muddy trenches of World War I to the blood-soaked beaches of World War II, he fought, he survived, and he earned a reputation as a soldier who simply could not die. But the past has claws of its own. The day he lost Rose, accidentally killed during one of his rages, scarred him deeper than any wound. It pushed him further into solitude, into the shadows, into the wilderness. Still, the world had not finished with him. In the distance, unseen but drawing closer, an operation was waiting. A secret project designed to turn men into weapons. A name he did not yet know, but one that would soon be carved into his very bones. Weapon X. Logan's life was about to be torn apart and reforged in metal. The Canadian wilderness had become Logan's refuge, and his prison. Years passed in silence, broken only by the howl of wolves and the crunch of snow beneath his boots. He had no interest in the world of men, and yet men had never stopped hunting him. One cold gray morning, the trap closed. Soldiers in black, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors, surrounded him in the forest. Logan fought like a cornered animal, claws flashing, but tranquilizer darts cut through his fury. His world faded into darkness, and when he woke, he was no longer free. He was in the hands of Weapon X. Weapon X was not an army, not a country, but something far more dangerous, a Black Ops experiment, hidden from the eyes of the world, funded by those who saw mutants not as people, but as assets to be controlled. The scientists of Weapon X had a singular goal, to create the ultimate living weapon, and Logan, with his healing factor and feral instincts, was the perfect subject. Days bled into weeks in a nightmare of restraints, injections, and endless pain. They stripped him of his name, his past, and his humanity. Strapped to a cold steel table, he became the centerpiece of their most ambitious experiment, the bonding of adamantium, the strongest metal known to man, to his very skeleton. It was an agony beyond imagining. Molten metal flowed into his bones, his body rejecting it again and again, but each time, his healing factor pulled him back from the brink. The process should have killed him 100 times over. It didn't, and when it was over, his claws, once made of fragile bone, gleamed with unbreakable silver, each one a perfect instrument of death. They thought they had created a weapon they could control. They were wrong. During a combat test, something inside Logan snapped. His mind fractured, his rage erupted, and the creature buried deep within him, the one they had tried to cage, tore free. In a storm of blood and steel, Logan slaughtered his captors and tore through Weapon X's hidden facility. The alarms blared, the walls shook, and the myth of Wolverine was born in that chaos. But escape was not freedom. Logan stumbled into the snow adamantium, weighing heavy in his body and memories fractured like shattered glass. Weapon X had erased pieces of his past, leaving him with a hollow ache where his identity had been. He was a man without a history, without a future, only a name whispered in fear, Wolverine. Wolverine. And while Weapon X lay in ruins, its shadow still followed him. Somewhere out there, the people who had made him were still watching, waiting for the chance to claim their weapon again. The years after Weapon X were a blur of roads, fights, and empty bottles. Wolverine drifted from town to town, never staying long enough to grow roots, never trusting anyone enough to call them a friend. He fought in underground cages for cash, hunted mercenaries in backwoods bars, and took dangerous jobs no sane man would accept. But no matter how far he ran, the same nightmares followed. The cold metal table, the hiss of the machinery, the screams echoing in his own voice. His claws were both a gift and a curse. They kept him alive, but they also marked him as something different, something dangerous. Then, fate intervened in a remote stretch of Canada. Wolverine's path crossed with a young mutant named Rogue, frightened, confused, and on the run, chased by killers who wanted her for reasons she didn't understand. Rogue found in Logan an unlikely protector. He didn't want the responsibility. He wasn't looking to be anyone's hero, but somewhere deep inside, a part of him recognized the fear in her eyes, the same fear he had carried for years. That's when Professor Charles Xavier entered his life, a man in a wheelchair, with calm eyes that seemed to see into your very soul. Xavier was a telepath, and more importantly, a believer. He believed mutants didn't have to live as outcasts or weapons. He believed they could be more. Xavier offered Wolverine a place at his school, a safe haven where mutants could learn to control their powers and fight for a better future. Wolverine wasn't convinced. He'd spent his whole life surviving by trusting no one, but Xavier's dream, and the family of mutants who lived by it, was something he'd never known before. Cyclops, Storm, Jean Grey, each had their own battles, their own scars. For the first time in years, Wolverine wasn't just running from something, he was part of something. And yet, there was still tension. Wolverine's rough edges clashed, with Cyclops' discipline, and his feelings for Jean Grey only fueled that rivalry. But beneath the bickering and the stubborn pride, Logan began to understand the truth. The X-Men weren't just a team, they were a family, and in his own gruff, reluctant way, he cared for them. With the X-Men, Wolverine found purpose. Missions took him around the world, from the frozen wastelands of Siberia to the burning streets of Genosha. He fought Sentinels, mutants, mercenaries, and nightmares pulled straight from his Weapon X past. His claws became more than tools of survival. They became weapons to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Still, the shadows of his past never released him. Each mission seemed to pull another thread, unraveling hints of who he had been before Weapon X. A name here, a face there, the whispers of a life he'd once had, a life stolen from him. And Wolverine began to realize something. If he was going to protect the people he cared about, he'd have to face the truth about himself. But truth, for a man like Logan, would come at a price. The weight of countless battles bore down on Logan like an unyielding storm. Every scar etched on his flesh told a story, stories of pain, betrayal, sacrifice, and survival. But beneath the hardened exterior was a man haunted by questions he had long tried to silence. Who was he beneath the claws? What remained of James Howlett, the boy born in the quiet halls of a Canadian estate, buried under decades of bloodshed and loss? Logan's journey back to himself was a brutal odyssey, both physical and emotional. Each memory recovered was a shard of a broken mirror, reflections of loved ones lost, moments of fleeting happiness, and the bitter taste of betrayal that had shaped him. He grappled with ghosts of the past, his childhood friend Rose, the mother who had raised him, the family he never knew he had. Faces blurred by time, voices muffled by pain, but always pulling him forward. Amid the chaos, Jean Grey's memory shone like a beacon. Her sacrifice during the Dark Phoenix saga had left a wound deeper than any flesh could bear, but also a spark of hope that even the most broken souls could find redemption. With Cyclops, Storm, and the X-Men by his side, Logan found a fragile peace, a family forged not by blood, but by choice. Yet peace was a stranger to a man like Wolverine. His enemies were legion and relentless, from the shadowy arms of government conspiracies to the mutant hunters driven by hatred. Each battle tested his resolve, pushing him to the edge of the berserker fury that lurked beneath. Yet, Logan learned to harness that rage, transforming it from a curse into a weapon of protection. In quieter moments, Logan sought solace in the wilderness, the forests, and mountains where the wind whispered forgotten truths. Here, far from the world's chaos, he faced himself, the monster, the man, the legend, the eternal struggle between the man who wanted to live in peace and the warrior who could never stop fighting. His legacy was not just in the battles won or the enemies slain, but in the lives he touched and the hope he inspired. Children who saw him as a hero, mutants who found strength in his defiance, and comrades who trusted him with their lives. He was a protector of the weak, a guardian against darkness, the living embodiment of resilience. But the price of immortality was loneliness. Friends aged and passed, lovers were lost to time, and Logan remained cursed to watch the world change while he stayed the same. The man who once ran from his past now carried it as a mantle, understanding that true strength was not in forgetting, but in remembering and moving forward. As the sun set over the horizon, casting long shadows over the land he had roamed for so long, Logan stood tall, claws sheathed but ready, eyes sharp but thoughtful. He was no longer just a weapon or a soldier. He was a legend, carved in flesh and steel, a testament to the unbreakable spirit of a man who refused to be defined by his past. James Howlett may have been lost to time, but Logan, Wolverine, was eternal. And as long as there was breath in his lungs, his fight would never end.